guys, welcome to Travel Tuesday. This is the first episode of Travel Tuesdays. We're going to talk about 10 things that you should have in your cabin bag. This will pretty much be applicable to all the journeys, but it's most applicable to plane journeys, and if the journey is long, it's even more applicable. So let's just start. I'm sorry to start with this stinky one, but socks are very important in a long journey. For example, when you get to the airport, you have to get there for like 2 to 3 hours before an international flight. And before that, you have to get to the airport, another hour for that. Before that, what you're doing, you're packing, you're getting ready. So by the time you land at your destination, you have put about 10 to 15 hours of mileage on those socks. In some cases, it could be 24 hours or even more, which means that they are stinky, they are sweaty, and you are feeling less comfortable in them than when you started. A clean pair of socks can make you feel completely different when you land there, or even sometimes if you have spent a lot of time, a lot of hours to just get to the airport, then you might want to change right when you get into the flight. But it can make a difference in how you feel when you get out of the plane and go into your destination. So I always pack lots of socks in the suitcase, obviously, for the duration of the trip, but there should be one pair of socks, clean socks, just in the cabin bag to keep with you to change in the flight. Second one is a sleep mask. Sleep masks are very easy to buy. Do you know that when you close your eyes, the brain chemistry changes? The brain waves change frequency when you close your eyes, and this is why we always meditate with eyes closed, and we sleep easier if we have our eyes closed. So the sleep masks are very easy to find. Even if you don't want to sleep, if you're not planning to sleep in that flight, you might want to just have a sleep mask so that you can just put it on your eyes and relax. Third one is a travel toothbrush. So this is, if you've read the book Three Men in a Boat by Jerome K. Jerome, it's a very funny book, I recommend it. And he talks about this specific saga of the toothbrush, where he packs the toothbrush, then realizes that he needs it at the night to brush his teeth, and then packs it again, and in the morning he does it again, and then he forgets it finally, and then later on it ends up with him carrying the toothbrush to take to the flight in his pocket, usually. And that used to happen with me as well. I would forget it, remember it, forget it, remember it several times, because you need to use it until the last moment sometimes. So the solution for that is to have a travel toothbrush. I have an electric toothbrush that costs about like £100, so I can't buy a spare one for that. But I have a travel toothbrush that I just keep in a box where all my travel things are. Whenever I'm traveling, just put that in the bag, and that's it. So this is again the similar thing like the socks. Sometimes if you have spent like 9 hours, 10 hours in a flight before you land, or sometimes after you land, but before you come out of the airport, you want to brush your teeth just to feel a little bit fresh, and it makes a difference. Believe me, it makes a difference. Especially if I'm going to have family meet me there when I go to India, I usually brush my teeth either in the plane just before it lands, or in the airport before I go out to immigration and baggage and all that. So having a travel toothbrush, if you don't have an electric ones are like, now travel toothbrush, they're like £4, so very cheap. But if you don't want that, you can just have a normal one. Toothpaste as well with that if you want, but toothpaste are usually easier to find than toothbrushes. So you can have a small tube. Never take a new one on the plane, but have one which has like a couple of brushes left, 2-3 brushes left, and just take that one for you on the flight. Then, okay, I didn't want to say it, but I have to say it. Passport, visa, ticket. If you checked in online, I recommend that you should check in online 24 hours before the flight time, especially if it's a long flight, because then you can select your seat. And then if they gave you an option to send you a boarding card that you can print, then take that with you as well. The only important thing here that people might not be aware of is that sometimes you need a transit visa, even just to be on an airport. So if your layover is through a place, you might need a transit visa, and that depends on what passport you have, what destination you're traveling to, where you're traveling from, and the airport itself, and what kind of visa you have for the destination. I've been almost caught in that once, so now I always check whether I need a transit visa to go through that particular airport. Item 5 is just a pen, just a simple cheap pen, plastic one that doesn't break in your handbag. That's it. Sometimes you need it for filling forms, and they always give you the forms, but there's not always a pen for you to fill the form. Then you have to go around hunting, begging for a pen or to buy a pen from the airport. So have a pen with you for forms. If you meet somebody, you want to get their addresses, their phone number, email addresses, having a pen is always handy. So just keep it in your cabin bag. That's it. Item 6 is about the chargers and cables and battery packs and adapters. This applies more to me, and I think for you as well, because these days the phones don't have replaceable batteries, so you have to charge them. Smartphones do run out of things because you're using them for GPS, you're using them for your music, you're looking things up on the map, you're looking things up for your flight, you're booking, you're sometimes checking in from your phone, so, and you're communicating with friends and family while you're traveling as well. So they run out of battery, so you need to have some battery pack. And battery pack is easier because no matter which country airport you are in, your battery pack is there. You have the cable, you just plug it in and you can charge. But if you're traveling very long, if it's going to be like a 24-hour journey or something, you should keep a charger and adapter as well. But I usually I have lots of power banks. The reason for that is because I have several gadgets. This is one of them. And there are 3 things that you should look for in a power bank. One is the capacity. If it's really big, it can be a problem in itself. So for example, when I was traveling to Thailand, and through Thailand, in Thailand as well, from city to city, I think this was the one that I had, and I think it's like 30,000 milliamps. So, and I found that this was the biggest one that they allowed. So if I had anything bigger than this, they would not allow me. And even this one, it caused a lot of questions. Every time I went through I went through the airport X-ray checking, and this like, what is this? So they always asked. So it's better to have more small power banks rather than one huge one. That works out better for everything, flexibility. But I always keep this one in my jacket pocket. It has the cable, the USB-C cable right there. They come in different varieties. They come for micro USB and everything. So I think this is like 4,000 or 3,200 or 4,000 milliamps. One thing is capacity. Don't take it too big, but have couple of them, especially if your duration is long for journey. And another thing is like form factor. So for example, this one, I can plug this into the phone and then hold it with the phone in my hand, and I can keep using the phone at the same time. I had another one, which was this I used for my camera mostly, for the Osmo Pocket. This one is like, I had one which was about this big. I have it somewhere, can't find it right now, but that had a USB-C coming out of here, so you plug it in and then you can hold it and you can keep using the phone. So form factor is important for that. For example, this one, I can't use the phone with this. I can't hold it like that because it's more likely to drop out of my hand. I think it's about at least 1 kilogram of weight, but it's more likely to drop out of my hand and also damage the phone at the same time. Third thing that you should look for, so there's the form factor, there's the capacity, but also whether it is fast charging or not. These days, not all chargers and not all power banks are the same. So some of them give you an option for fast charging. If more power is coming out of them, then your phone will charge much faster and it will last longer as well. So this has one which is a fast one and one is a normal one. But they're also, I don't know how much that, like one is 1 ampere, one is 2.4 ampere, something like that. You can even get ones which give you output of 3 amperes from the USB port. So have that, and also at least 1 or 2 of the cables, just small ones. You can buy a retractable cable like this as well. So it comes out like this, and then you can put it back, and it takes only a small, it doesn't get tangled, and you can keep it in your bag. This one, and I found this to be the case with cables like this, is that it's not fast charging cable. So even if I connect it to a power bank which is fast charging, it won't charge my phone fast. It will charge it, and it is usable for data transfer as well, but it won't do a fast charge. So keep that in mind if you're buying one of these. I'll give you links to as many of these things that I can possibly find, because I've bought so many of these over the years. Then I've got a lot of links on Amazon. I can give you some of those, and then you can take a look and then see if anything is suitable for you. Okay, let's get to the seventh one. Seventh one is a digital camera. Why would you want to have a digital camera on you when you got a great camera in a mobile phone? because the optics are better in the digital camera. If you're going to a place which is going to be photogenic, for example, if you are flying from Paris and then when you take off, you get a really nice view of the city from the plane window. And there are amazing views that you want to take a picture of, even if you didn't think that you would need to or that you would want to take any pictures during the flight. You might be a very jaded, very experienced traveler, but sometimes, yeah, you still want to. My nephew Sagar, when he went from London to Delhi, and he took some really great shots of the clouds and the sun and just out the plane window with his mobile phone. So mobile phones are good, but if you have a camera, this is like a small Sony one. If you have a small camera, one thing, they are dedicated, so they have a good sensor, and because you're going to use it only for photos, you won't run down the battery, so you don't have to balance the battery whether you want to use it for photos or something else. And a cheap digital camera would have a better sensor than a mobile phone camera sensor, so you would get better pictures and better videos from that. This is a bit expensive. This was like 200 pounds, but you can get something like maybe 50 quid. You can get them for cheaper. So keep that in mind, that you might want to take, especially depending on the destination where you are going, you might want to keep a camera just with you. Phones, they make you turn the phones off, so if you take the phone out and start turning it back on, the air hostess might be on your case like, why are you doing it? Please turn this off and put it back. In the camera case, nobody will say anything, so you can take the camera out and put it on the window and then take a picture. So much easier that way, much better pictures for sharing. It is some small notes of currency. I learned this the hard way in my first journey. So when I was flying the first time from Delhi to US, and I had money with me, I had traveler checks that my office had given me, but the smallest one I had was 50 quid, and I had a 8-hour layover in Frankfurt at those, I think it was Deutsche Mark at the time, not even euros. So they were willing to take the traveler's checks, but they were not willing to give me money back in dollars because they don't have dollars. It's Germany, come on. So they had German currency, and I could not tie up the money from my office's money into German currency. So always have some small currency. This is dollars that I've had since then. So every time I fly, I have some small currency. Maybe 20 pounds worth of notes would be good enough, but just have them in small denominations. You might think that you are okay to use cards these days because everybody takes cards, everybody takes contactless transfers, and I am a great believer in the contactless technology. But do you know that every time you spend money from your card in a foreign country, your bank charges you for each transaction? Even if it's a small transaction, they will charge you some minimum amount. So why do you want to waste money like that if you can just carry some currency, local currency, or even your UK currency? Because you can, if it's small enough, you can just, £5. Here you go. I want pizza. So make sure you have some small notes of currency, especially if you have a layover somewhere, especially if you have a long journey. So flight food doesn't last very long in your stomach, so you get hungry. I was hungry at the Frankfurt airport for 8 hours because I didn't want to spend the $50 for just a small, like a $7-10 pizza, and then waste the rest of the money. So have small amount of money in small denomination notes in your pocket or your cabin bag. A ninth one is a small grocery bag. So grocery bag, I mean like a small plastic bag. Although do check, these days some countries are banning the plastic bags, so make sure that you are not going to some place where they have it completely banned and what are the rules are, what are the fines are. So make sure you're aware of that. But this can be really useful sometimes just to put your shoes in. Sometimes if you buy something from duty free and don't want to take their big bag, and you can just wrap things up in this and put it in your cabin bag. It can have other uses as well. For example, suppose if you are wearing shoes which have laces and one of the laces breaks, you can just tear it up and then make a rope out of this and then just hold the shoe together with that, because it's plastic, so it will last you at least through the journey. Or same thing if your belt breaks, so it can be useful in an emergency situation. Okay, another thing is like a handkerchief. That's my 10th item, is handkerchief. they call it pocket square, but that's only the geeks call it. I always have one in my pocket, even in the normal daily life. Not everybody does that. If you watch the movie Intern, which stars Anne Hathaway and Robert De Niro, quite a nice movie in itself, he always has a hanky in his pocket in case he's with a woman who cries, needs a hanky, and he can be a gentleman. So it's a good use for that, but it is very useful for other things as well. These days, everywhere you go, in all the toilets and everywhere, you would have hand dryers and you would have paper towels. But some places you don't. What if they have run out? Or sometimes if you have an emergency, like if you're drinking wine and you spill the wine, you don't have time to go to the toilet with your trousers dripping with red wine. So they come in handy. One time when I was in Paris, I was doing a photo shoot, and a bird shat on my head. So thankfully, I was shooting with the model, and she had some tissues in her purse. Girls usually carry tissues. For the same reason, we should carry a handkerchief because it comes in handy. But had it been that I was alone, then I would need to use my hanky to wipe my hair. So it can be all kinds of. It is very handy if you have a headache. You can just tie it with your around your forehead. If you forget a sleep mask, you can use it as a blindfold as well. Although that might alarm some people around you. But it can be really useful in different kinds of situations. So definitely carry one, especially if you're traveling. I would say in everyday life, but especially if you're traveling, keep a handkerchief with you. Okay, so that is my list of top 10 things that you should have in your cabin bag for sure, for all kinds of situations, especially if you're going on a long haul journey. This is going to be Travel Tuesday, so every Tuesday I will share things like this. I'll share tips for all kinds of traveling things, and sometimes I might share some stories and photos and videos from my own travels. I'll see you in the next one. Until then, safe paths and happy trails.